In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to make mountains with World Painter. I'm also going to share a script that I use which applies a ton of different frost layers and makes it look really natural. Now, if you're new to the channel at all, I do a lot of time-lapses and tutorials just like these, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. Anyway, let's get into World Painter and start making mountains. Alright, so here is the map that I've been working on as part of this series. And of course, like I said, we're going to be working on mountains today. It's one of the things that we need to fill in. So with the map that I've got, just to explain what I've got here in case you are just jumping to this one, I have already done the cliff kind of areas and also the beaches going around. So everything's kind of raised up onto this kind of plateau. So we've got it at height of 65, whereas the water is 50. So there's already a couple areas that have kind of started to join in, especially with the cliffs where I've gone for higher cliffs around, here, there we go, up to here, which goes up to 75. So there's a couple of different points that I need to kind of match where I've got higher cliffs, so I need to make sure that the mountains kind of match that. But the first thing we actually need to do is build basically a couple hills. So it's going to be hills and mountains really for this tutorial. But this is like obviously quite important. There's actually a really good brush that I like to use, which is on the mountains tab if you're using Genzong's pack. And actually this one up here, this one that looks really bobbly, I actually really like for hills. So if I turn off annotations, I'll show you guys what the brush looks like. So if you just do this, you get some pretty good hills with each of these different like peaks. I quite like it as a nice base brush. There you go, that's the only thing you can see the annotations on top of there, but I think it really works quite nicely as a starter brush, and it's quite nice and rounded is the main thing. So yeah, it's pretty good. So anyway, if I just undo that, I'm going to go back on to show annotations. So I've got my plan. For me, I'm going to have the highest point in the middle here. Just makes sense to me to have it in that point. And then we've got these kind of like the main mountain range here, and then we've got this other one that's coming off, and then a couple smaller ones. Obviously it's not going to be as chunky as those, but this one down here does need to go up to about 75 blocks. So all we're going to do to get started off is just start raising the terrain. So biggest brush you can get. I've only got an intensity of 50. I'm actually going to probably whack that up to about 75. I'm just going to move that around and then just drag this across here. And again, make some of it bigger, and then as we get to the ends, make it smaller. So I think over here, I'm probably going to end up just having these as hills rather than as mountains going all the way to these points. So then do the same over here. So we're going to have more on this part here, especially on this middle bit here. And then we can bring this across and make that smaller. I'm actually just going to mix it in as well. So you'll notice that I'm not doing any at or below or at or above or anything like that. Literally just going with what it's giving me. There we go, so get that to smaller. I'm being quite rough with it because we can always mess around with it later on. Now we could, for this bit where we've got this 75, we could mix it in there a little bit more. But I'm going to actually do that as a little bit and another bit in a sec. So let's continue on this main mountain line. I just use this being really rough to give us some nice, like, bigger hills that are actually going on here. So there we go, bring that all the way up to there. Don't know what I'm going to do with this one. I think probably hand paint the waterfall or something in that bit. And then we've got that area down there, so we don't need to worry about that. And then just drag this into here. And this one, I'm actually going to put some details on my cliffs while I'm at it. Like that, there we go. I'll probably do the same here just to finish it up. That's always the nice thing about, again, this brush. Although it looks like a mess on here, it is really useful. So there we go. I'm just going to raise that bit up there so we get a little bit more of a peak on this side. There we go, like that. That looks pretty good, I think. Oh, there we go. Another little bit here. Just bring that out. This is probably, again, going to be more hills than anything else, and I'm not worried too much about the rivers. We're going to do rivers in the next episode after this one. There we go. So I just need to pull this bit down here. Get that to go to there. I don't know about this river either. I might change that just to be more like a little stream rather than three of them. So I think we have got the base. Yes, we do. So if we have a look at that on the 3D map, that will just give us, again, it's a shame you can't turn off the annotations on this bit, but that'll just give us like some nice hills to work with. So it's just like a little bit more of a raised plateau, and it just means when we're actually going to be brushing in bits, it shouldn't look like we just get peaks. We should actually have, you know, even if you did have a peak, you'd still have this bit that kind of layers down. It's about 5 blocks or so, and higher on other bits as well. So the next thing is to actually pick a brush. It's kind of up to you guys what kind of brush you want. I do recommend like really having a look at all the different brushes and looking which ones you really, really like. The easiest way, of course, is to do your show 3D view. And if I just move that to the side here, what we're going to do from here, that's not going to work. Sorry, I was going to try and show you guys on the 3D view at the same time, but I just realised, yeah, it's not really going to work without actually doing it. But if we could do perhaps something like that. So that's where I think these two meet. Yeah, so that's where those two meet. So we can have a look at trying to do this. I quite like these really, really rough ones, but I'm sure other people don't. But if we just do, with mountains, usually you go big, then go a little bit smaller, and then go even smaller and smaller and smaller. So what you can see here is we've got quite a lot of mountains in this one. The reason I like this brush is because it gives you all these grooves, and it looks quite natural, or at least I find it looks quite natural. So there we go, I'm just going to do that again. And also it's got a point. On this one particularly, it does have a point, which means when you get to like this bit, we're just going to be tapping that really, really gently now. It just looks really cool. There we go, so let's get that up there. And then there. Let's get this really small. So we get on this side, you can then see this all looks very, very bumpy and then goes into this smoother kind of thing. So it doesn't just suddenly stop, which is the main point. But for here, I want to raise this up a little bit more, so I'm going to go for another brush. Something like, perhaps, let's go on to Mountains 2. I quite like this one, this mountain brush one here. So I'm just going to raise that up in the middle. So it isn't, you know, I'm not moving it around too much. I'm just kind of raising it up. So that's gone up to a height of 217, which is big enough for this area. So if we continue this on here, I'm going to use that same brush that I used before, this one here, because I just like it. Actually, I'm going to use this one. This one looks very, very similar, and I quite like it. So there we go. Let's move that up. I'm also going to do some of these at an angle like that. So this one's got, again, really, really steep grooves into it, but that looks really cool. Alright, so I just lagged out completely there. That was really bizarre. So anyway, yeah, just keep on going with these. I mean, this one does look very, very different. That's the only problem that I've got with it. But if you kind of overlay it a little bit, it will look fine. So I'm going to bring that into there. I think I'm going to switch over to another one. And again, you know, feel free to vary them. You'll be surprised at how different you can make it, and make sure bits stick out as well, because of course it wouldn't be perfect. You're not going to get perfect lines going through the island. So that one I think is not messy enough for me, so let's just drag down that and get a little bit more on that. There we go. And that's the reason I quite like this one. It's just because it looks very, very nice and messy. I'm going to raise that up a little bit more. Going to get some more peaks on this bit, and probably same over here as well, but they're a little bit less now. So a little bit less, and maybe I'll switch over to the other one. There we go. Mess that bit up there a little bit. Get this bit here. And then for this bit, we're just going to bring this across here, and probably also do something maybe where we have it raised on this side here. So this is almost like a raised area and then goes down into it. And for this to smooth out, I'm just going to be raising up little bits of it. Not worrying about it too much. There we go, something like that. We have that going into there. So then we get this kind of like really interesting look, and we'll probably end up having still a bit of a cliff on here. But I'm not actually that worried about it. You can use, of course, the smooth tool, and then use a roughening up tool on top. That sometimes works if you want to get rid of any of those areas. It's up to you, really. I'm just going to smack that a little bit there. Cool, so that's all looking good. So, right, so let's continue on. I'll get onto this big bit, and then I can finish off the others. So the big bit over here, you can see this range that we've got here. Got a nice peak on this side. This, probably right here, needs a little bit more work, though. It's why the 3D view is just perfect for it, because it'll just, you'll see so many different things going on with it. You'll see where things look a little bit wrong, so I'm just going to bring out bits of this here. So there we go. Then we'll get a mountain, the river even will go around this bit, which makes a lot of sense. Or not so much the river will go around it, the river's cut through it, should I say. That's the more accurate thing to say. Now for over this side, yeah, I'm going to add in a little bit more as well to make just a small hill, and raise this a little bit up here as well. So anyway, let's continue on. So if we go for another brush again, and it is really just about playing around with different brushes until you get the hang of it, and you will get the hang of it quite quickly. So there we go, let's figure out this one. There you go. That is a very nice mountain brush. Mountain brush number 7 apparently. But I really like the smooth kind of lines on it. It's a lot smoother looking than the other ones that I've used. So this is where I want my biggest peak. So we've already got 158. So let's use this one. I really like this brush. Up to there, so that's already going up a bit more. Let's go even bigger than that, actually. There we go, that's really raised it up. I'll go for some smaller bits. I'll get some really roughed up bits here, because we could almost have like a mountain pass in this bit. And do try and look for areas of like interest on your map as well, you know. Don't worry too much about, you know, making it go exactly to your plan. Do think about, you know, what could I actually build there, what would look really, really cool, because that will help shape your world quite a bit. So let's make another peak on this side. It almost looks like that peak's bigger than this one. That's fine. There we go. Let's raise this up a little bit more. So that's now getting near the top of the height. So I'm going to really point it now. And I don't like that at all. It's gone too pointy, so I'm going to keep that one there. But I might kind of go around the sides of it to create other peaks so that it doesn't look as pointy. That's also a really good key point, is to yeah, do build peaks around your bigger peaks. That'll make it look a lot better. Okay, so there we go. So what I'll do is I'm going to just continue on and finish up those bits, and then I'll catch up to you guys and we'll talk about a couple of the different materials that we can actually use in this. So what I've done is I've actually got a couple of example materials that you can actually use. It's totally up to you. Always play around. I do recommend doing something like this where you end up creating something out of, as you can tell with this one, orange wool, and then just painting on it with something like World Painter to kind of get a feel for it. This is probably like the most default type one, which is just a nice normal kind of grey rock colour. So in terms of materials, we've got stuff like, you know, normal stone andesite, cobblestone, and there should be a tiny bit of moss stone somewhere, but apparently it's not in there, but it is in the brush. And then on the higher bits I've actually put in just a mix of what's that one, light grey concrete powder as well, just on a couple bits and bobs of it. So it just kind of like looks okay. So that's that kind of one. For a darker grey kind of colour, messing around with another couple of materials, actually using cyan terracotta and also a grey concrete powder. Both of these work pretty nicely together. And then on the higher bits, to make it like get this kind of like little bit of contrast on some pieces, using light grey concrete. So I'm having to pick up all the blocks because I can never remember them. Another one as well, this I'm really not happy with, but I just decided to try it out and see what it looked like. It's like a big brown rock. So this one is made up of two main materials, that is grey terracotta and black terracotta, which both are quite brown coloured, and at least in default anyway. And then using, for the highlight type thing, actually using brown terracotta on the top of that. So I mean, it's interesting. I wouldn't say it's nowhere near as nice as say that grey or the kind of like normal stony grey, but you know, it's a mix, and yeah, you could use that. And actually this one I really like, the black. So this is mainly using well, it is using two different materials, which is the block of coal block, which I quite like, and also black concrete powder. So those two materials mix quite well. I did try to use this like lighter material on it with the grey concrete, and I don't know, I'm not too sure about it as a highlight colour. But do play around with a couple different designs. I'm going to be going, well, not really designs, you know, materials and material lists, and just play around with them, see what it looks like. I always do it on like a smaller scale, and it always help. But again, with World Painter, you can always just try stuff out, render it out, have a look at it, and change it. So I'm going to be using this one, so let me show you guys what the materials list is like for that. So, after spending a huge amount of time doing the mountains and kind of tweaking bits and bobs, this is kind of what I've actually got. I'm pretty happy with it. Some bits are really a little bit too spiky, so I think I've still got some tweaking to do. But, you know, you guys will be, you know, just spending as much time as you feel you need to in order to get your mountains looking good and when you're happy with them. But, you know, it is literally just kind of like a bit of a trial and error kind of thing. It is spending a lot of time onto it. To get everything to really work, and you'll end up with something that looks hopefully like what I've got on the screen here. So what we're going to talk about next is, obviously we talked about materials just a second ago, but we're also going to be going through those in World Painter, so we're going to set up a couple new ones. So in order to set up a new custom terrain, just in case you haven't done it before, probably you've got the screen here where you've got layers on the side, on the left side here. Down the bottom you have custom terrain. And then from here you can press on create custom terrain. I've already created a couple because I wanted to try them out, make sure I get some pretty good ones that I'm actually happy with, so you guys can just copy it. If you don't have the custom terrain tab of the way, go onto terrain, and down the bottom here if you press add create custom terrain, it'll launch you into that screen, then the tab should basically appear. So anyway, first thing we're going to do is create something that I call gravel dirt. So what is gravel dirt? Well, I'm just going to go on to right click and edit. You guys again, press that new one, do create custom terrain. Gravel dirt for me is a mix between gravel, dirt and grass. So I usually use this where I want it to look like there isn't a lot of grass growing, and it's quite noisy as well. So again, if you haven't done these before, you'll probably end up on the simple page here. What you want to do is click onto complex, go onto noise. You want dirt :1. So on here you'll get legacy block dirt ID, and you'll get dirt, and then you just switch that data value to 1, which is coarse dirt. It's really good, this new thing. I absolutely love it. I think it's great. How it updates and tells you what the name is, because that's really helpful. But yeah, we got that. So we've got that one, and give the count of 5. Go for gravel and give that a count of 3. And grass, give that a count of 15. So there's a lot of grass on that level. But set that all up and press OK. That's going to be our first kind of layer. If you haven't done a gravel mix before as well, I'm just going to click on that one. I'm going to edit this one. So if you do need to add this in, this is just a mix between gravel and andesite. So it's just to give it a tiny bit of variation. Obviously, you don't have to go all the way with andesite if you don't want to. It's totally up to you again, and it depends on what your color scheme is, of course. So what I find that works really, really well is the concrete powders. They're great. But yeah, so we got gravel, we got that as a 10, and we got stone 5, which is andesite if you click on it. So it's 1:5 or whatever you want to call it, data value 5 is andesite, and then you've got a count of 1, and again it's on the noise for that one. I have got a cliffs material. It's up to you guys if you want to have this. I do go over that in my cliffs tutorial, but if you did want to just pause the screen and grab that, you can do. Again, it's on noise, and we've got stone and everything. I won't go on to that too much, but just, yeah, pause the screen if you wanted to grab that. The next two is going to be mountain rock and light mountain rock. So this is where I showed you guys that main material mix. Again, noise, and this time we got stone with a count of 100. We got stone 5, so andesite, with a count of 50. Cobblestone with a count of 30, and we got mossy cobblestone with a count of 1. So hardly any mossy cobblestone at all, but trust me, it does appear in there every so often. I think it's 0.5% out of the total or something like that with mossy cobblestone. So that's what I use for the mountain rock. So again, set up a new material for that and get that going. And then for the light mountain rock, it's stone 100, concrete powder 8, which is light grey concrete powder. Again, I love this tool. Yeah, so 8 is the data value, and got 5 on that as a count. And then again, andesite is 20, so that's stone. Column 5 is 20. So slightly different mix again. So I got rid of the cobblestone and I got rid of the mossy for those ones. So what is next? How do we get it to all work? I've obviously applied it to mine. I have been playing around a lot lately with the scripting engine, I'll be honest, and I'm going to show you guys that for the frost layer. But essentially what I do is a couple different global operations. So the reason I can't show this script is because the custom terrains that you actually get, they get numbered, and then you have to have them in the exact same sequence that I had in my script, so that wouldn't actually work. But the first thing I do anyway, always, is do a global operation. I do fill with terrain type sand, wipe out the entire map so it's just sand. The next thing that I actually end up doing is I do a grass layer. So you can either do bare grass or grass. At the minute I'm just doing normal grass, and that is going to be at or above 55, and I also feather that one, so you can do that as well. The next thing that I get is gravel dirt, which is that kind of like layer level that we've actually done. Gravel dirt, I actually have that above 25 degrees, so where is that? You can actually do it at or above 55 as well. There's no harm in doing that, or at above 50 or something like that. And then above, I go 25 degrees. I'm pretty sure that's different actually. Let me have a look. Sorry, guys. Oh, above the level of 75. Sorry, it's because it's split in the script. So above 75 and above 25 do go. Let that go through the whole thing. The next thing after that is going to be my gravel mix. So, or our gravel mix, shall I say. So gravel mix is going to be above 35 degrees. And I'm just going to check the filter. No, it is just above 35 degrees. And I've actually got mine going underwater with that as well. I found that quite works quite well. I then got my cliff layer, which is very similar to my main rock layer. That is above 45 degrees. And that will just be anywhere for the cliff. I don't end up doing any of other sort of filtering. So again, that will be underwater. Then for mountain rock this time, so mountain rock. So mountain rock is above 45 degrees, which is what we've got already. But that is also above the level of 70. So that's those are the kind of settings I put on that one. Again, do go and everything like that. Then next is light mountain rock. This is above 75 degrees. 75 blocks high, so above, at or above 75. And this time I actually do it above degrees 75. Okay, sorry, at or above 80. So it's really difficult for me to read it off the script. So there we go. So at or above 80 and then 75. And I just let that go all the way through, and that gave me this kind of nice mix. And that essentially what it does is you'll get those nice beaches. Now I have on the script the feather doesn't quite work. I have logged a bug on it. You don't actually get it to kind of work the way it should, but you should have like a noise around with when you got the kind of grass to sand level. You should have quite a nice looking like cliffs and things. When you get up to the higher areas like here, see we get this gravel dirt. That's where you get this kind of like dirt starts to appear in. I really like it. I really like it. I think it looks good. And then we get the stone, and then we get above that we get some lighter stone in there. So those are the kind of like material mixes that I like to do. But we've also got something else to do, which is the frost layer. So frost layer, obviously frost appears on mountains, and it's really good. This one I can share with you, so I have made a script for you. So what you need to do is you need to go to the link in the description, which is to this. So it's Lord Dakr's Mountain Frost. Very cool. What I've done then is on my D drive, I have actually created, I've got a World Painters Projects folder. It's just a normal folder. And in there I've just created something called scripts. And in here I would just shove that file. So download that, shove that in there if you want to. You can edit and open it with Notepad++. And because it's a JS file, it's JavaScript, you can actually go onto there and you can see this JavaScript and everything like that. It is licensed, guys, so do check out the license. It's basically, you're free to use it for non-commercial use, but all I mean by that is, actually no, you can use it commercially. If you want to use this and sell a map, that's fine. It's mostly the script. If you want to edit the script and then try and sell it, then I'm not cool with that. Because I'm giving it out for free, so I find that's cool, but you can reuse it. So all this does essentially is just works through and does a load of those global operations, just to make it quite nice and smooth is the main thing. So we'll take in what we call an argument. I'll show you guys how to use that in a second. If you don't put an argument in, it'll say that the deep snow is at 200, and then from that deep snow height, it'll then start to figure out where you get all these other layers in here. It'll start minusing values from that as it applies each layer. So it kind of it's a nice and easy way to do it, and doing it via global operations you'll make a mistake. And the same happens again with the layering. It will do below, so 45 degrees, and it'll do -20. Then it'll go down to below 40 degrees, and it'll start to taper off with those frost layers. And it does that 9 times, which is really, really cool. So anyway, how do we actually use this in World Painter is the main thing, right? Because most people don't know about this. I will do a more in-depth thing on the scripting API, I think, at some point. Well, the way that you do it is you go onto Tools, and you go onto Run Script, and then you select it on here. Find that script folder wherever you saved it. Doesn't really matter where you saved it, but I go Project Scripts, and Lord Dakr Mountain Frost. And then for your parameters, you can put in parameters if you want to, or you can leave it, but it has to be a number. If it isn't a number, I can't remember if I've written in logic to make it not fail. I might not have done, I might have done, I don't know. So if we're going to say that frost is going to be at layer 200, we'll do that, and you just run that. It will take a little bit of time to go through because it is essentially doing a load of operations within there. So let that run through, and then we'll have a look at it. There we go. So that's now run all the way through, and we've now got frost on everything. So we've got deep snow, and we've also got frost. It applies those 2 layers, which is pretty cool. Right, so I mean the only real next thing we need to do next is actually to render it out, because there's not actually much more about mountains that I can talk about, and I've already talked for a very long time about this. So yeah, what we're going to do is I'm just going to export out a nice section of this, and I'll look at it, and yeah, just play around with it. So there we go, all exported, and this is what it looks like in game, of course, which is really cool. So the thing that happens with the snow layers is because it just like lets it kind of go down naturally, it'll find these points slightly higher up, and then it'll start to taper off near the end, which just really works really, really nicely. I mean, you can see like tiny little bits of snow like here, for example, and it's just using the script is just a lot faster, so feel free to use that whenever you want to. Feel free to edit it, tweak it, but of course you can just throw in a parameter and have the snow go down a little bit more. So one thing to note is that for some reason the snow layer does not get applied to deep snow, even though it is in the script to do that, and I have no idea why it doesn't do that. But I haven't figured that one out yet, but there we go. That's what you should get, and you should get this kind of like deep snow on these top bits under a certain angle, so you'll have bits of stone poking out, which should look pretty damn cool. But there we go. You can see these kind of like bits I need to sort out on the mountains. Don't look at those. But that is it from me, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this tutorial. As always, let me know in the comments if you enjoyed it, what you didn't like about it, and what else you want to learn how to do in this fantastic tool that is World Painter. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.